Hello, welcome to the Swatches live stream. I'm Clint, this is Diana. We are instructors and illustrators with Swatches. And today, in this episode, we're going to be reviewing submitted art portfolios. Throughout the portfolios, I already have a handful of paintovers that I have done. So stick with the live stream as we're going, and we'll be looking at those as we get to the different pieces. We will be taking your live questions throughout the stream, so feel free to put those in the chat and we'll keep an eye on them as we go. We're also going to pause during some of the review, and we're going to have an art chat on nepotism in the industry. And we've seen some different comments online. This is a bit of a hot topic with a few people, so we want to just touch on that. And if you've got your thoughts or questions on the subject, again, feel free to put them in the chat. As far as the reviews, if you're new here, just realize that the reviews are open to anybody and they're completely free. All you need to do is go to the Discord. That's where you send them in for reviews. So you can go to swatchesdiscord.com, go through the few normal steps to just start
maybe introduce yourself or post something in the main general chat, and then you'll be able to go to the video critique submissions channel and post a link to your portfolio there, and we're just reviewing them in the order that they get posted, or we try to, and it's completely free. So if you want a portfolio review or just some feedback on a specific piece, you can post that there, and we'll do it here on YouTube for free.
If you have not been in the loop, then the new form drawing course just launched this week. That is my new course on foundational constructive drawing. And it differs from a lot of other drawing books and classes which focus on the ability to replicate. It's like doing a one-to-one copy of a thing. And that's absolutely necessary. That's a skill everyone should have. But the constructive drawing is how do you draw volumetric and accurate forms and subjects without direct reference. And this is what really allows you to get into imaginative work, because you're constantly having to do adaptations to all your references and making up things that don't exist and things you don't have reference for. It goes directly into form rendering, which is painting volumetrically, and it's just a mental difference of how you approach the drawing and painting aspect. So if you want to pick that up, that is available. It's both available in its own standalone course, the form drawing, which has a pirate theme just for the fun of it, and as well as in a bundle with the form rendering class, which is Diana's. And both of those get really excellent results. They are foundational, so if you're a beginner, they should be approachable for you, but also if you're intermediate, this is a good way to refine your skills. They are foundational, but they are not easy, said that way. There is the new art challenge. It'll start up December 1st is the next one. Got a couple of questions on that. Then we're going to be in Lightbox next month, which feels crazy to say next month. So if you're going to be at Lightbox, come by the booth 1109 and say hi. Yeah. It'd be good to see you. Okay. Doesn't seem like there are any issues with the stream.
Yeah, let us know if the sound is okay, if you can hear us well enough, or if we're too quiet. Oh, hey Miyuki. Miyuki's one of the artists on our team at the studio.
I have my chai tea, so I'm ready to go now.
He's ready to go. So should we start with the reviews, and then we can...
Let's start with the reviews.
And then we can talk about the other subject.
Okay, the reviews... I got back in here. We have 5 portfolios to look at today. We'll try to get through all of them. Apologies to James and Emmy, who got held over from last week because we were too long-winded.
And we were too tired to go another hour.
That was a long week last week, so
Yeah.
we're doing better this week. First up is James. I want to read his comment, and then we will pull up his portfolio. He said he's been doing a lot of private D&D commissions, doing some indie games. A lot of that's under NDA. I understand that, ours as well. You want to get better at illustrations and characters, trying to go for bigger companies. Any advice is appreciated. Currently trying to improve drawing skills, dynamic posing, costuming improvements. Okay, all around just trying to level up to bigger, better clients and projects. So, James, this is his portfolio. ArtStation, good place to be. Always want to look at the totality of the portfolio first. What are we getting off the read of that before we look at individual images?
I like the banner.
The banner is nice. That's a good choice. What else have you seen here? And you can scroll down.
No, I just, when I was recruiting, I always just have this habit of looking at the top 2 rows and not really looking at anything below that, just out of habit because I was going through so many.
Yeah, if you can't sell me on those 10, I don't really need to see more.
Yeah, exactly. So just looking at the top 2 rows, it looks like, consistent themes and consistent style. I get what you're doing. You're committed to this kind of medieval fantasy D&D thing. So that's pretty good. It's consistent. And, it continues as we go down.
Yeah, so the theme is good. I also see that the quality and the style is consistent enough. It does vary a little bit from piece to piece.
But there's no piece that stands out as being horribly weak or just way more advanced than everything else. They're kind of at the same level of quality.
Yeah.
Some are a little bit better than others, but overall, yeah.
Now, design-wise, I don't know how much control you have because these are commissions, so I assume this person told you what this character looks like, and you probably have some control over that, but I'm not going to be real strict.
It's hard for us to judge your design when we don't know how much of it is being set by you or your clients.
That's 4 years ago, so looking at the more recent one 2 months ago, these things I am liking that I do think show good things about your skill and portfolio. It's tidy. All the images are done. Proportions look good. Same thing here. I feel like you understand the subject matter. You've got good amount of layering, accessories, the materials. We've got different tones of leathers, different tones of fabrics. So those are things that commonly people get off, is they don't develop them enough. They don't have enough small things to look at. And I feel like that's doing good here. So we'll go into Photoshop in just a moment and look at some little paintovers of some suggestions. But James, you're at a point where there is no easy thing or two to tell you. You're on this long stretch of minor optimizations on every piece that compound to being a level up. So, James, are you there? That's my portfolio. You already did a review. We already reviewed it.
Did we review it already?
I don't remember. Maybe we did.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that there was a repost. I recognized some of the pieces, but I thought you had. If you do not want another review, just let us know in the chat and we'll skip over you.
No, you just tell us.
I guess we thought it was a repost.
I thought we reviewed it like a while back, and that it was because some people we've reviewed them multiple times because it was like at least 6 months or a year between them.
Mm-hmm.
So you let us know. We'll skip it if you don't want any more input.
Well, maybe we can just jump to the Paintovers.
Okay, well, let's take a look at that then. So maybe this will be useful to others who are in a similar place. And okay, so these are exactly the same right now. I'll turn on the Paintover in just a second. But the top ones will be the base as he had it.
Mm-hmm.
And then let me mark a couple of things to kind of show what we're looking at and what we would see to address.
And this is stuff that we would do if these were ours and we wanted to just push them up a little bit. Like there's no major mistakes that you're making.
Okay, over here on this guy, the hair feels a bit too almost plasticky. It's like it's one unit. Can really use just a few strands kind of breaking things up in a few spots. It's minor, but that's the level we're at. I would recommend letting this hand break out of the silhouette some instead of the hand being directly to the camera where you have it overlapping the entire arm. It can go lots of different ways. It can be down here, but the main thing is just let's see an elbow bend some direction or another.
Because even on our pieces, we always try to avoid keeping limbs inside the silhouette of the body because it has a tendency to just get lost and sometimes have a weird read.
This is I think it's like a halfling character. He seems shorter. So I find it odd that we're looking at the underside of the bag of somebody shorter than the camera. I realize maybe it's tilted, but just for the perspective, I turned these more the other way just to help sell the fact we are looking down. Okay, over here, if you're looking at this, kind of like, guys, look at this for a second and think what might be off, what might be optimized before we tell you. Because it's critical that you look at it, think about it. Think about what it is. Now, what we were seeing is a discontinuity between particularly the lighting on the head and the lighting on the body. If we look at the chest is more lit from the right, and the head is clearly more lit from the left. The lighting of the body and the head do not mix. There's also a tonality or color difference where this is a very warm light and this is very cool light, very even balanced light. So I'm going to be looking to try to harmonize those. And over here, this is good at where it's at.
Yeah, super pretty face. Really well done.
So we talk about this a little bit in the character illustration class if anybody wants to go into it a little more. But looking for gradations of skin tone, particularly within fantasy creatures and races. So still want to look for the opportunity to change some color around the eyes, the nose, the lips, and then somehow in the horns going to a different color, gradation, that sort of thing. So these are some of the quick changes we're looking at here. Pull out, you can see those. So over here you can see the hand's been moved out. That way we can see a little elbow bend. The end of the dagger is separated from the body. That way we can tell it at a glance a little better. And just changed the curves on some of these, so we're looking down on them a little more. We were losing some value control here, where the darks of the blue were getting just as dark as the darks of the darker brown cloak. So just letting that sit a little closer to its base value and not shift to the black as much. Here we're harmonizing the light. I think just intuitively it feels more correct. So we've shifted the light over to the left side more, let this get more shadowed, but still kept that edge light.
Just with an exposure layer. Didn't require repainting.
Yeah, not too much.
And then the warming of it is just an orange filter. applied to the armor so that it feels a little warmer and like more consistent with what's going on the face. They look like they're being lit more by the same light, if that makes sense.
And on the right, we have her. Again, no big changes here, but we're talking about minor optimizations. Letting the horns transition to a darker tone towards the end. Eyes love gradients. Everything's a gradient. If you can start thinking in terms of things getting lighter, darker, warmer, cooler, more saturated, less saturated, it keeps the eyes moving around the picture. So we got that little tone difference on the ears, the nose, a little bit around the eye. And that would be a small thing. And then there was a little edit on the hair, where we kind of needed a distinction between the hair where it starts going back and the hair of the bangs where it starts coming forwards. And usually you'll get that sort of highlight along that ridge up there.
You need a part somewhere.
Yeah, up there. So those were some of the minor things. James, you're really at a good place. I know you weren't. I must have just spaced out of when the last time it is that we reviewed this, but you're doing good stuff, honestly. And
yeah, really minor. Like this face is like awesome, super tight face.
Yes.
Great work, great read, and suit of armor looks good too. It's just a matter of getting them to match more on the lighting, but small thing with the exposure layers to do, not super destructive.
Yep. Okay. Well, I appreciate you letting us look at your work
Again. Sorry if this was unexpected and cringe for you.
Again, we said this last time. I'm going to quickly say it and we'll keep moving forwards. With the Discord, anything that's over 30 days old that's been submitted for review just gets put into a random assortment by Discord. It doesn't track anything past 30 days. So I'm trying to just figure out who it is.
So it would be helpful if you put your portfolio in there for review. Can you also in the comment just put the date that you posted?
That would be very helpful.
So it would help us know, because Discord will just wipe it off if it gets over 30 days.
In the future, maybe I'll find a different method for how to submit these more effectively. But okay, that's what we got on that one. Next, we have Emmy. Was the username EMI? I don't know. Hey, well, hey to you as well. I started building my concept art portfolio. This is my first piece. We'll pull that up in a second. Still learning a lot of things. Already do some parts differently, but I'd love to hear your feedback. Ultimate goal is full-time with games. Starting with characters and creatures, good. Adding props goes with characters well enough. Would love to hear your suggestions how to improve weak points. Okay. Well, we will take a look at this. So, Korina, I believe, is the full name. Okay, glancing at this, what are we seeing here? What's your thoughts of the broad portfolio?
I feel like it's going in a good direction. I feel like the posts are intentionally, made towards concept art, and I can see that you're, a character and some creatures, person. That's what you're focusing on. There are some things that make it look a little bit less professional, like. For example, this piece here is just not as to a high, enough level to really be this compatible with these up here or consistent with these. Some of them are a little bit weaker, some randomness, but overall, I think you've got a good batch of pieces, at least to start. It looks like a starter portfolio.
Yes.
It looks like
that's
you haven't
valid.
You haven't found your groove yet. Nothing is as refined as maybe you would want it to be or I would want it to be, but it's going in a good way.
Yeah, I commend that as well. It was Korina. Korina. It looked like you were going more kind of random, back here where the designs are just more odd or strange, where the usefulness for the industry is quite low. There's really not that many properties that need creatures like this. There are a handful, but it would be a hard way to have an ongoing career in the subject.
It's a little too niche.
So let's pull up this one, because this is absolutely the direction you should be going.
Yes.
Let this serve as the benchmark of what you need to keep doing, because this is far more competitive. It's a great showcase of your skill, and it has a high usefulness to a potential client. Now let's kind of talk through, for the other viewers, what is it that we're seeing about this that makes a good impression, and then what's some optimizations that she can make here.
Well, right off the bat, one of the things you're doing well, and that a lot of people with kind of starter portfolios don't do well, is you're not repeating the same image over and over.
Yeah.
You've got this guy, you've got the back of him. Okay, these are different. These are all different. That's good. It's not the same face with just like a 2% change, or the same figure 3 times. These are all different. Pose is the same. That doesn't matter. That's fine.
Yeah.
Get another page, all different again. They're not repeated. That's great. So again, that's something that we see people do often, is just repeat the same thing over and over. This super good breakdown, really clean, tidy, everything mapped out. You didn't skimp your call outs. I like that. Another page, exploration, how this guy's magical braid works as a weapon, and he's also got a sword. That's cool. That's your design, your pitch, you're selling it. This is also nice. Again, I really like how clean and decisive everything is, with no repetitions.
You know, some of your choices of these things that are not what you consider the hero image. This is a hero image.
Like the beauty shot.
Yeah, it's the beauty shot. Things that are not the beauty shot don't need to try to look like the beauty shot. That's something we see people really get off a lot, is like, this is perfectly acceptable for what it is.
This is good. You can clearly see everything. Yeah.
And the same thing with these. These aren't the beauty shot of the weapon. They don't need to be fully rendered and lighted and stuff. This is flat on orthographic views, and even the characters are basically just silhouettes, because they just need to be there for size relationship. It doesn't matter anything beyond that. This is a nice page. People sometimes get too crazy when they're doing like effects like this, and it's not even a clear what they're trying to show off on the page. But this is very evident that it is about this blue rot effect.
Some kind of a fantasy zombie, I guess. Something like that. That's what I'm getting from it. Or zombie magic. I don't know. This is nice too. You're kind of giving a little bit of storytelling. I feel like this page is a little bit weaker than the others, because it kind of got this naked, empty space here. I wish there was something
Could
here.
just be a graphic design. I feel like you may just be able to lay those out in a little better way.
Yeah. And then you've got kind of a scene here, which is, it's okay. But your best stuff is all these pages up here. This one, this one, this one. This is all really good. You need to have, you need the top row of your portfolio to be all characters like this guy at this level with this layout.
Yeah.
So this is what you're doing right. So if we had to give feedback on what Korina could improve, what would you suggest?
A minor thing that caught me is the design on his cheek. He already has enough going on. He has like the facial hair. He's got the blue rot on the side of his face. Let's not also add another design, because unless you're really seeing it up close, you can't tell if that's just a weird wrinkle or whether it's a scar or what you're looking at. And you only need one really unique thing about a person's face. And sometimes facial hair enough, if it's unusual enough, is sufficient. Well, the blue rod, obviously sufficient, but we don't need like 3 things. So I would look at doing that. The execution of the rest of this is quite good. I do feel like the faces, if you were to put a little more time into something, the faces would be it. Particularly look back at the other ones. Now he's passable, but I feel like very quickly we get over to like this guy, and there's a clear step down in the quality. If you want to keep this in there, then it needs to be at the same level as the other guy.
Yeah.
And honestly, if it's concept art, you don't need to paint all the faces. Photo bashing with a few tweaks to match kind of the lighting, right, or the facial expression or whatever. Minor tweaks to a photo bash is going to be a better answer for you than trying to do a full portrait painting for each one. And honestly, in the industry, they do that a lot because it's just so much more efficient.
Yeah, you don't really have the time. It's not a good use of time to be spending 3 hours painting a portrait perfectly to get that level of a face. So this guy, honestly, he needs a little... Oh, no, it's not loading for some reason.
It does that sometimes.
I'm going to refresh. Oh, no, we stuck now.
I can pull it up and...
It's not wanting to... Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, let's just... So, can you bring in the other photo of the other guy? Yeah, that guy. Yeah, so this guy is basically this guy. I mean, I don't know what reference you used, but to me, they're similar enough. I would consider photo bashing a little bit of this, or if you don't want to photo bash, that's fine, but just realize that the makeup you're putting on this guy, here it's creating kind of this effect where it looks like it's a fold, like an unusually strange long fold. Here it just looks like he's wearing fake eyelashes. It's reading a bit feminine, which I don't think is what you're going for. So I would recommend changing this makeup, removing this tail of the... You don't need this line, and it's just a weird way to paint it. I don't know that someone would paint their eye makeup this way, but that's, you know, that's what I would recommend. And if it was me, I would, you know, I don't think you need to photo bash this guy. I mean, he's close enough to this guy, but maybe just reference the mouth a little bit more and some of the planes of the face.
Yeah, let me clarify. I think this guy, however, maybe you photo bashed him, maybe you hand painted it, whatever the method was, this is, you need to reach this. I would consider this the minimum for the face. For the others, if you want to keep them in your portfolio, the fastest thing to do would just be to photo bash some faces onto the other guys. Yeah. Keep them in there because there's still some other good things about them until you can eventually, and my suggestion would be eventually get out the other characters until everything matches this.
Yeah, that would be like, if you're trying to get hired, basically I'm just going to tell you the truth. These two top rows, everything needs to be at the level of this project here. You need to bring these up.
No, I will leave one more comment. You can add a comment after if you want.
Sure.
Last comment is you do have creatures that you're designing, which is great. That makes you more useful to a client if you can multitask or multi-subject. I do recommend sticking with the kinds of creatures, or at least if you're going to add something to your portfolio, do creatures that are going to be very common. So we have heard from other concept artists in the industry where they say most of what we're doing is just a fantasy twist version of a normal creature. It's a horse, but it's a fantasy horse and it has antlers and claws. Right, something like that. It's a chicken, but it can't be a real chicken, So you gotta change it. It has a longer neck and it has a different color scheme.
Or it's like
right?
a fantasy rhino. It's got fur, instead of a smooth skin. But it's also about the accessories. Like if it's a mount, all the different types of saddles and accessories, and like who does the mount belong to? What race or what status is the rider? That sort of thing. So that's where you can really explore design options. You're gonna look for the Diablo horses. Yeah, this is a good example of this.
Yeah, so here's for mainly Diablo 4 comes up right now, and it was the newest one. And I mean, look at this. This is fantastic. This is a design for the horse for a very specific set of armor or whatever. The blood money finery concept art.
I think everyone's got the same base model horse.
Yeah, and you could do these over a regular horse, right? So this one's like some magic Lilith horse mount. So it's like a cursed horse
that's a 3D
or something.
model horse.
So there's that. I'm trying to find some of the 2D ones.
They're around.
They must have just not put the keywords in there the same way. But, totally different look, different accessories. That's a place where you could go with it, is the creatures like that. So, although you can put in things like a bird goat, that's fine. Put stuff like that in there. Put in your other creatures or crazy harpy characters and stuff. But do make sure you put in a few of those standard horses, chickens, lions, whatever you might have like that. That's going to be
beast
more normal.
mounts. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. Any additional thoughts?
No, I think the portfolio is good. I think, you just need to keep doing what you're doing over here and push these up, or either push these up to his level or do new ones to add on or explore like this world, make some more characters to go with that guy.
If you have not practiced working from a brief, absolutely something you need to do. We say it to everybody. It's true here as well. You could use maybe GPT to come up with some random characters for you. There's other sites where you can come up with random NPC or adventure characters for D&D. Give them, get some stuff from them. We have a portfolio kit. It's available on the website. It comes with, you can get it by itself. It's $50, or it comes with every single course. And it's literally has hundreds of briefs specifically designed for targeting certain clients. And
the reason we recommend working from a brief is because that is part of the job.
Yes.
That you're trying to get. So this stuff that you create on your own, this is fine for technique and process and practicing that stuff, but there's a whole other side of the job that's problem solving a brief that you don't get to choose, and that's and like making lemonade from those lemons, whatever they give you. And that's something that we recommend practicing as well if you really want to be prepared for the job.
Okay, moving to the next one, unless we have a question. Yes, so it looks like there was a little back and forth about yes, we are taking more submissions. We don't take the submissions live during the live stream, but you're welcome to go out to the Discord and post your work in the video critique submission room, and we just review them in the order that we receive them, and we usually do 5 or 6 per live stream. Okay, well, let's do an art talk.
Let's do an art. It's just a little intermission before we go back to the portfolios. Don't worry, there's more artwork.
Yes.
We're gonna look at, and we're just gonna take a little pause, a couple of minutes.
I'll just put it on there.
Oh.
So you heard what?
Oh, we were having this conversation, and I don't know. Sometimes we see these conversations going on around the community, and we wonder if this is something that our community wonders about, or anyone, because it has come up before. But I think it was yesterday or the day before. I was on Twitter and I saw, or X, sorry, is that what it's called now? Whatever. And I saw there was a conversation going around involving people I do not know, so I don't want to quote any. I don't know any of the people involved personally, but they were mentioning the subject of nepotism in the industry, and I've heard this.
If somebody's not familiar with that term,
Yeah, nepotism I think comes from a Latin word for nephew, nepo. Basically, it was when people used to show preference for family members, right? They would put their nephews or their sons or whatever into positions that were not necessarily earned, right? So showing kind of favoritism to a friend or a family member has just been called nepotism now. So when people talk about nepotism in the industry, what they're talking about is people being given jobs or positions that have not earned them, that are getting them through a personal contact, a personal connection, like a friend or family member or a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whatever, husband or father, doesn't matter. And we've heard this conversation before.
yes.
Heard it many times, and it seems like it's cyclical, like it just comes around every year or something. I don't know what the cycle is for this. But the statement being made was by someone who is employed in the industry, from what I understand, saying, well, it's not even worth it, basically, for new people to be working hard on their portfolios, because they won't be able to get a job unless they know something, because everything is based on network or networking.
Well, they know someone.
Yeah. So that was the argument that was being made, that the industry is inherently unfair and not meritocratic. That was the argument that was being made by this person who, as far as I know, does work in the industry full time. And it seems like I think it was a she, I don't know, had this opinion because she had observed, although she didn't want to name names, didn't want to say specifically the company or the person, but she had heard or she had observed someone getting a position that they were not skilled for. I think she mentioned someone getting a senior position that was a beginner or a junior or something to this effect. And there was just a lot of negativity in the thread from people kind of opining on this or talking about, well, you know, I've always been told to have a good portfolio, that that's what matters, but does it really matter? And I just wanted to talk, because we hear this every so often, and we just want to talk a little bit about it for people wondering, like, oh, is there any point in me even trying, you know? Yeah, there is.
Yep.
So on the subject of nepotism, and you can vouch for this, I can vouch for this, anyone who's in the industry who's honest will say, yes, it does exist, but it exists in every industry.
Yeah.
You could not go anywhere into any area of human activity where you wouldn't find somebody that got into some job that they shouldn't really have had access to because mom was a recruiter, or you know, husband was, you know, an AD or some such thing. This happens everywhere. Like, if you're an engineer, a dentist, anything.
Community is not immune from this.
No. It's any area of human activity that is going to happen, because the temptation is too great.
Does it mean that all should stop because there's no hope?
I think the person complaining about this, for the situation that they observed, that was a valid complaint. But to extrapolate this, because you don't want to go on record and say who it is you're talking to, so instead you just blame everybody. You just spread the blame around. It's the whole industry. It's not the whole industry. All of our clients that we work for, we don't have any personal connection to any of them. There's no friends of ours there. No one's doing us any favors. All of our friends that are in the industry, our colleagues, same thing. It was pure portfolio. It was not any friendships. We did not party with these people. We're not related to them. They're not our besties. It's nothing of that nature. And I think that I just wanted, I'm not like running cover for the industry or anything. I'm just saying that it's like 90+% meritocratic.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is. It is. Because it couldn't function any other way. It would just, the artwork would be so bad otherwise. Like, you can get away with some dead weight.
Yeah.
You can get away with some people being there that like, oh, they're not very good, but there's enough people around them to cover that up, basically, and carry them. But you couldn't do that if the whole industry was like that. It would just be a hot mess, right? So it's not like that, is what I'm trying to say. You don't need to go be friends with everybody or something. The portfolio is still the most important.
Yeah, guys, I completely agree. And from over 15 years of being in the industry, does nepotism occur? Absolutely. Like Dinah said, in the same way that happens in any industry, confidently can say that it's less than 10%. I bet it's less than 5%. You just don't really see it that much. Or if you do, then oftentimes it is an issue of the person being reasonably qualified but vouched for because somebody has a working history with them.
Yeah, I think people confuse this sometimes, and they say, well, if you knew someone at the company and you got hired there because someone put in a good word for you, that's nepotism. That's not nepotism, okay? That's not nepotism. That is you having a working relationship with someone. You already worked with someone has experience with you and can vouch for you if they had a good experience. That's not them doing you a favor.
Yeah.
Or you getting something that's unearned. So I want to explain this because I've been, and you also, we've both been in hiring positions at different places and now at our own studio. And here's something that people don't understand. Sometimes it's better to hire someone that is not the absolute best, like the very, very best, but is good enough. But you've worked with them before and you know you can trust them.
Mm-hmm.
You know that they won't miss a deadline. You know that they can take critique. You don't have to worry about, am I wasting my time drawing up a contract for this person, onboarding them, going through all these interviews, and they end up to be like a problem, a headache. They won't work well with others, etc. There is value in just hiring someone that you know can work well with you, that you've already worked with, that you can vouch for.
No.
That's not nepotism.
That's not nepotism. Nepotism when that person really should not have had the chance. They shouldn't have even been in the running for the thing. Mm-hmm. The other one is just having work associations. Mm-hmm. And that's fine because that's just how business works. You work with people that you know are trustworthy and are hard workers. At the end of the day, the biggest metric, the most powerful metric of the situation is the one that you control, which is how good your work is. That overrides everything else. All right, Igor Sid is probably one of the best character concept artists in the industry right now. He doesn't need to have a personal connection in order to do well in the portfolio considerations for a new company, okay? Mm-hmm. So his work does all of the talking for him. And that's what we've seen. We are working with a variety of AAA companies with Swatches Studio. All of that was done by just portfolios, okay? Got in the industry with just my portfolio and no connection at Magic the Gathering, no connection at D&D, no connection at Blizzard, and I worked with all of them.
Yeah,
so
same with me, same with Nino, Visha, the other teacher at our school, same with Guillerme as well. So yeah, this is not, and we are not the odd ones out. I would say most, especially people in foreign countries, have never even been in the United States, never even networked, never been to an event. They didn't get in because of nepotism. Like, it's absurd, right? So there's also other things people may not realize. Like if you're hiring, for example, for an in-house position and you need someone who is in your country at least, or in your area, you're going to look at the portfolios and you're going to rank them. Let's say you pick your top 5 portfolios. Okay, well, what if your top 4 of those top 5 are all people who live overseas? So if you want to hire any of them full time, you'd have to go through visa stuff, government stuff. You'd have to get them to move. You'd probably have to pay relocation. And who knows if their work visa would even be approved. It would be months before they could even become productive and active on a project. So that might just make you kind of discount those top 4 people, even though their portfolios were the best, and go for the 5th one who's in-house. He already works for you, or she already knows the lore, already knows the aesthetics of the product. She's maybe not the best, but
knowing the pipeline in-house of how they like to do things. This step moves on to this step. We get reviewed by this person. It should happen in this amount of time. That's very valuable.
There's a value to that too. And so all these things count. And that's why people say, oh, they put up that job listing and then they hired someone in-house. So that job posting was fake. And it's like, it's so dumb and stupid. It's not fake. It's not necessarily fake. They just didn't get someone who is better than what they had in-house that was more convenient.
That would also offset the probably $15,000 or so that it would cost to go through all of the HR hiring process,
or get a headhunter
company, the review interviews.
So there's all kinds of logistics, and we're not making excuses for the companies because we've been in these hiring positions, and you just realize what a stinking headache it is to try and hire some people over others. And sometimes you just go with who is more convenient, who's more available, and who already knows your stuff, even if their portfolio.
But the baseline is you still have to be able to do the job.
You still have to have a good portfolio because if you put that job listing out there and no one meets the portfolio requirements, you just won't hire anyone. Like that's what we did always. Like if we didn't find anyone that had a good enough portfolio, it didn't matter whose sister they were. They weren't going to get hired, you know? So it always comes down to portfolio. And we say focus on the portfolio first, soft skills second, because these are the things that are totally in your control. Whoever's cousin is working at HR or whatever, that's not in your control. But your portfolio and the way you come across, the way you are to work with, that's in your control.
Following up a point that we had with Fred Rambeau, character concept artist in AAA games. He didn't say it in these words, but this is basically the point. Really good portfolio skills can get you a job, but soft skills can lose you that job.
Yeah.
Soft skills cannot get you the job. If you have great soft skills, that is, you show up on time, you communicate well, you're personable, you're a team player, but you have poor art skills, it doesn't matter. You cannot offset bad art skills with soft skills. However, you can have great art skills, and if you have bad soft skills, you won't communicate. You always have a chip on your shoulder.
You won't answer your emails from your lead. You won't hand stuff in on time. You won't do what's asked. You won't make changes that are asked for. It's like those people, it doesn't matter how good their portfolio is. They're basically useless because then we have to take projects away from them and give them to somebody else or redo them. Like it just. So oh, Jonathan's here. Hi, Jonathan. So you're right. The Navy SEAL approach. Yeah, you need someone you can count on, and that's an advantage. But they also have to have a good portfolio, right?
Okay, guys. Well, I thought that was just worth chatting about for a bit. If you have thoughts or questions on the subject, hey, put them in as we're going along.
Just want to tell you guys, like, if you see tweets like this, don't get blackpilled. Don't feel like, oh, I have to have a family member in the industry or I'll never get it. It's not true, okay?
People blow it up out of proportion.
People just say that because they want to complain about someone in particular, but they don't want to say who it is, so then it becomes everybody's problem, you know?
Yeah, it's a way of kind of kicking the responsibility down the road and not having to pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, we have 3 more portfolios to look at, and another 2 so Paintovers. Can't remember how many I did, but up next is Josha. I don't know if there was a particular inflection on that name or not, but let's look at this. Recently completed the character illustration, material rendering through props, and fantasy illustration classes.
Good job.
I have to say they've helped me tremendously. Whoa. I am glad that you found them helpful, and it's awesome that you actually went through all of them and you actually practiced this stuff, because there's a lot of people that don't see it all the way through and therefore don't get the full benefits of the courses. So that's great. Many years struggled with the concepts, but the courses really help you to understand them better, gain clarity. Okay, been looking for illustration work in the style of MTG and D&D. I'd like to ask if you could review the portfolio with some feedback. I'd like to understand where I currently stand, how far I am from reaching my goal, and what areas I need to improve. What advice would be invaluable. Okay. So let's go to the page first. Close that one. Get back over here. Okay. So this is Josha. If you're here live, let us know, and we will chat with you a little bit. Okay, so fantasy art. Not a lot here on this tab, but let's go to all tab and kind of get everything. Okay, so most of these pieces are from the courses or the career kit. A couple of these are briefs from the career kit. Recognize the subject matter. Yep, cartographer. That's from one of the previous art challenges, I think. Okay, doing some big scenes, sci-fi stuff. Some of this stuff's pretty complex. Ships and everything. Okay. So, looking at the overall here, what's the initial thoughts for... Okay, as we've talked about it before, first thing we're looking for is, can we identify any foundational errors from a thumbnail view? If so, that's a red flag. Portfolio wouldn't continue through evaluation and consideration. The next is image selection. Is it coherent what the subject is that this artist offers? I think so. It's clearly fantasy, historical kind of fantasy sort of thing.
It's close enough to the fantasy overall.
It's still a little here or there, and that's fine. You're practicing materials on their own, which makes sense because you did a class on that subject, so you're focusing on that. Doing a class on just faces or from your own study, I don't know. And then just the landscape. Okay. Now, I feel like you almost have to start going into the individual images unless you have more notes from...
Yeah, okay. Well, just from a thumbnail, if you were looking for work with this portfolio, there are a couple of things which would stand out positively, which is the themes. There's a good level of quality of painting and rendering. Those are nice things. A couple of things that would probably get you disqualified from getting hired with these images would be the values here. That sticks out a lot. Values, colors, the face here. That would be kind of a red flag that would stop the process. Some of the posing, there's some, composition posing issues here, some composition issues here. So it's not huge mistakes that you're making, but but there are things which are noticeable at a thumbnail that would probably prevent you from getting hired. You're close though. You're doing really good.
Yes. Yeah, when you are really focusing in on I'd say, a smaller scale, such as just a character, there's some really nice things here. So, pulling up in here, the character design, really good. Cartographer, it says cartographer. The pose works. That arm feels like maybe that's a little odd, but it's pretty good. And I agree, value control on some of this. And this has the overall kind of MTG feel. Control of the colors, control of the values. But yeah, in this case, this is one of those times that we'd add a lot more fill light on the face to even that out more, so we're not getting so much kind of dark and lostness through the bottom half of the face. We're getting
a lot of darkness on the upward facing planes of the face.
This is getting quite flat through all of the lower body. We need a little more volume because whatever it looks like on screen, it's going to print even more flat visually.
And just be careful, this goes for anyone, you're painting a scene with just, it looks like it's one color. All the green things are this shade of green. We would like to see some plants have a different variation of green or different shifts of green, or adding some more. It almost seems like there's dirt, but you didn't really commit to it, to dirtying up some of these parts, or adding different colors of leather in here to separate it. So we basically only have the kind of brownish skin, this one shade of green, we've got the same brown here, and then we've got kind of this gray back here. And that's, you've only given yourself 3 colors. Could expand that palette out a little bit, would make that piece richer.
Yeah. So for Josha, this is another situation where it is a bunch of little things, little optimizations that are going to get you there. If there was a single or just 2 or 3 things that would make the biggest difference, I would really tell you to focus on those. I do have some Paintovers I can show you. And I'm not saying, oh, this is fully the answer that you need. But let's take a look at this one. And this is Obsidian Flats. I think this is from the kit. It's been a while since I wrote some of the briefs for that. And the main issue is, like you said, the values. That is, most of this is just setting the same value darkness range. And there's very little separation between the focal point and the background. Now, compositionally, we're also getting like half of the whole image basically is really not useful and does not have any significant thing in it. So we could fill a lot more frame with the main subject, and that would be good. So my Paintover would be something more in this line, and even this should be taken further. And that's just zooming in on that. Let's take a look at some of the layers, see how we got there. First up was just zooming in, get on the focal point, and this is just filling more of the frame with the content. Because remember, if this is like a magic card, it's going to print at 2 inches, and that's getting really small for your focal. So that literally gives it like 3 times the size just doing that. Next up, trying to give some value separation with a background haze that's being lit by the lava. How about some little beauty lighting off from the side? Where's it coming from? Moon? Question mark?
It could be.
I don't know. Looks good though. Don't want to overuse it. All right? We want to be selective about it. And it's just giving some volume lighting to this, because otherwise it's all a bit flat. It's all kind of the same tone everywhere. And how about a little foreground element? Let's bring that little dude over from the side of the image.
From the other image, the other composition. Just
he's over here.
That rock.
There's some nice painting going on that, so bring him over. And then adding some atmospheric haze, setting it back a little bit. Some lava splashing around.
Explosions.
A little more action. Some backlighting, some glow. Again, popping out some points.
We could do more. We could get some smoke. If you wanted to put plumes of smoke going from large to small to add more dimension in the background. You know, there are ways in which you could even take this further. And we didn't like finish this image for you, but this is just to give you an idea of what you could do to separate those planes a little bit, give yourself some more values, and make the image a little bit more interesting. I know sometimes with the lands there's not a lot going on, but if you can find an opportunity to develop them a little bit more, give them some visual interest, it always helps.
Mm-hmm. For some reason I can't pick up some of these colors. Yeah, I really do like that idea of using some pillars of smog and ash kind of coming off of this, and you can have other ones coming up from elsewhere in the scene, and this is going to allow you to break up some of these lines. Everything's super crisp with a lot of tight detail on it. It's going to break that up, allow you to maybe have some of the rest of this sort of soften out a bit, and that's going to make a more of an impact. The additional lava spills, the smoke, it gives a feeling of life, of movement in the scene that otherwise we didn't have, where everything felt very static. Yeah. So that's a suggestion there. Let's take a look at this one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this one is from the fantasy illustration class. One of the prompts.
We appreciate the shout out over here.
Yeah. A lot of people do that. We do appreciate that. Okay. So there are definitely more things going right in this image than going wrong. And this has been a difficult image for a lot of people to take on. So this mage core, I believe is the type of character this is, race of people. Core mage is preparing that she might have to fight. So it's not a full-on spell attack scene. It's a preparatory sort of pose. We've got a good level of render on a lot of this. Things like that really make me smile. I like seeing that.
Nice cape back there too.
Yeah, we got some good texturing and stuff going on these. I assume that you picked up some of that sort of stuff from the materials class. Some nice volumetric lighting with, say, the fill light from the sky coming in over here. So a lot of that stuff is good. Some good texturing going on down here.
That part looks primo. Really good.
I do feel like the background could have pushed more with that world being more curvy, more dramatic. If anything, I'd say maybe spend some more time just sketching like what more interesting things you could do with it. And this is, in my mind, starting to just kind of get busy, where it's just a lot of green, white, and blue in sort of patchy pattern in the background. It's fine as an idea of like, I'm going to have some land back here, but if we could create some more kind of hierarchy of how it's laid out, I think you could find a better pattern. Now, again, I did make a revised version of this, and that, if I could only put a little amount of time into it to get as most as I can, I'd scale up the character, because this part of the character just doesn't matter that much. And for a lot of the horizontal cards for Magic, they just basically need waist up. So we can do something like this. Really getting up close on the character
Also feels a little bit stronger of a pose. Yeah.
So getting in here. Very little repainting on the character itself. I did adjust so the legs are going back that way. Just feel like once we cropped in on the upper body, having the lower body kind of going this way felt odd, like she was falling backwards. So I went ahead and just adjusted that. And it felt better to have her head open with the sky behind it so that there's very low detail here. This is simple versus a more complex information there. And simplifying some of this, just letting some of the shadows go into a flatter tone. This is just a really fast, you could add some tonal variation in there, but either you really need to commit and this needs to be resolved, or we need to artistically flatten the shadows out into a tone. So that would be a better, I think, option there. I quickly did this. This is not the answer. This is just as a talking point. Curves, spirals are kind of common in this world with the shapes of the lands. So what if we were getting this sort of pattern with the land creating simple curving shapes instead of just random kind of scattering of a archipelago or whatever. So you could take things further from this, but that I think would be the starting point of how to get more out of it. Yeah.
Agreed. Hope that was helpful. All right, shall we, do we have any parting words?
I want to go back here and take a look at
for Josha. I think he's going in a good way. He's focusing on the right things.
You are going in a good way. You're focusing on the right things. I agree. I'm going to go back to the main portfolio. Throughout, posing is something, if you were to put a little more time into, if we can like group something that has 2 or 3 instances, posing would be one. There's some really good painting going on here, but it's being offset a little bit by a few of the choices. So if in this case, like, it feels like his head is too high. So if I turn my head over my shoulder like he is, I can't keep my chin away from my shoulder. And we're accounting for the fact that he has a mantle on, which would raise his shoulder up even higher. It feels like his neck is too long. And we have to find a way to simplify the read, because again, if this is small, this is little, then that starts getting hard to read what's going on in here. So it's a difficult ask because all of this color is very similar value, very similar tone. But finding ways of visually separating that. Maybe that's putting the cloak, the cape in a different position. Maybe it's following behind him up here,
and maybe
rather
not
than down here.
Maybe not going so light with the boots, because we're just losing them completely. So be careful with those things. Like we mentioned, it's not any big things. It's just a lot of little things now that you need to optimize. And when you're looking at your image, just think, is this the best this pose can be? Is this the best read? On this one, pose is fine. Okay, are these colors the best colors I can use? Can I do anything more? Can I push the materials? Can I push the background, the composition? Can I push the values? You need to train yourself to ask these questions when you're working on a piece, to try and just push them to the highest level that you can.
For you, one of the next things that you can watch for, and I don't have any examples pulled up, but when you have time, go look at some MTG work. Go look at some like League of Legends splash, some really high level illustrations, and look how they silhouette. Okay, that's one of the next things that you need to add into your value control and rendering process. Where right now you're putting direct light on everything, and you're doing kind of volume lighting on everything. Where you see a lot of the good guys don't. So like this probably should be going into a silhouette so that the leg is showing up as silhouette. This leg's going silhouette down here. Maybe part of the cloak back here doesn't need form lighting on it. It just needs to read as a shape. Right? So start watching for that. And what you're going to be doing is starting to balance between things that have good form directional lighting on them, and you're contrasting against things that have a sort of silhouette lighting where there's very little information on them and they read through a shape.
And also don't forget that your stones, as they go back, you can reduce the values and simplify. We don't need full renders on stones back here. It can just be 2 tones. Just let it become simple. And the ones that are closer can have more. So just remember to simplify as you go back, and even on the character too. It's just something you need to get used to.
Yeah. Okay.
Next person.
Cristiana. Okay, Cristiana's comments got your newsletter today. Yes, if you don't know, we have a monthly newsletter. We send it out on the 1st or 2nd of each month.
We try to make it useful.
We give you any information about any new courses or course options that are coming out. But we also give you tips, job openings that we are aware of, inspiration to go check out, variety of things like that. So you can just go to swatchesacademy.com, and the footer of every page, you can just put your email in.
Generally goes out the first week of the month.
Yeah. Okay. Really wanted to try submitting my portfolio. Thanks for the opportunity. Professional illustrator, character designer, working in the industry for some years. I feel like I'm missing something and that I need to grow up much more, okay, to be able to collaborate for major games like MTG, D&D, Pathfinder. Struggle to understand where I should focus to improve and in what direction I should move. Okay. Cristiana, I've already looked at your work. I have a couple little paintovers here we'll take a look at. And I first want to compliment you on your self-awareness, which is not common to all artists.
It's not a super common trait.
I think you are exactly right. You are professional and you are getting clients, but there is some things that is holding the work back from perhaps landing some of those other bigger clients that you have your eye on. And we will try to do the best to help you with that. Okay, so you have your own site. We're not on ArtStation on this one. It's pretty clean. I find it a little odd that we immediately get into sketches as we're going down. I would kind of expect that to be along with this piece if I clicked on that piece. Okay. Got some minor little animations going on. I'm familiar with Blasphemous, the video game. I guess you worked on a board game version. Okay.
There's some Ghostfire stuff.
Ghostfire stuff? Yeah, Ghostfire makes a third-party books, campaigns, and content for D&D. If people want to know what that is.
Yeah.
Okay. And got some book covers, traditional sketches, etc. Okay.
Okay. So yeah, overall good impression of your skills. It's obvious that it's clear that you would be getting work. I'm not surprised at all.
I'm not, no.
So yeah, it's a portfolio that is in line with the clients that you're getting. It makes perfect sense. Now you're trying to step up to the next level, which is basically the highest level for illustrations, where you're trying to step up to. And you were saying, I'm not sure what I'm missing or what I need to work on to develop. So we can talk a little bit about that.
Okay. As we've talked about previously, we kind of green flag, red flag. The first flag you want to look at is, can we open your site up? Is it accessible without having to log into something? Yes, it is. You're fine there. Next one is there foundational errors that we can see from a thumbnail view? Not really.
No, nothing I would consider a serious error.
Right. So then it starts becoming about image selection. Do we have good image selection? I think so. It feels in line with, we don't have random sci-fi ships in here or something.
Yeah.
And
we don't have portraits of celebrities.
now we're talking about more advanced things, and that's where we start seeing where we can do some optimization and the things that are separating stuff out. So from this view, black and the overuse of black is something that is potentially a hindrance. Now, it is acceptable in some circumstances, some properties you can get away with it. Things that are in print, it's a little harder to sell them on it. So like D&D, Pathfinder, and Magic, for the most part, they're all printed. And you'll see that a lot of the artwork for them stays more in the midtones. That's where you're going to get that rich color. That's where you're going to have more volume and impact visually from it. And there are some images that definitely need black, and that's fine. There's art styles that really make use of strong blacks. But there's a difference between setting up a scene that has dramatic blacks, and I'm thinking of like Mike Mignola with Hellboy, right? His images are the stronger for having these big black areas and shadows versus just letting the shadows get too black too early in too many places where it's not really being utilized as this graphic powerful thing. It's a little more of a crutch that is keeping you from fuller range of values and shading. I'm going to make another note on here, and this isn't technically wrong, but it is something to be aware of. And that is the watermarking is a little excessive.
A little distracting.
I understand that you are proud of your artwork, but having your name on it multiple times, written out with a signature, with an email. I know that this is fantasy art. I'm looking at it. I don't need that extra line on there. And you can, again, it's not wrong, but let me just put it to you this way. Do not repost without credits. Do not edit, manipulate, or copy or use for AI. The kind of people that are going to do that are not going to be dissuaded by you putting that on there. And the people who...
Like the people that want to steal from you are just going to steal from you anyway. So all that you're accomplishing with this is just kind of stamping the artwork, and it's kind of distracting, makes it harder to see and appreciate it. I think it's good that you put your email address. I would definitely put that maybe a little smaller here. And if you want to put your name on it, great. I think this is a bit much, but it's not technically a mistake. It's just something that is noticeable.
I find that it's just serving as a distraction away from the artwork.
Yeah, it prevents you from really taking in the image. So we were going through our list of kind of red flags, green flags, talk about what might be holding you back from getting those clients. At the thumbnail, there's nothing really that says, oh, there's foundational errors. Agree. And the image selection is, so what is actually holding you back? Well, the problem happens when we open one of these images and then we see this.
Yeah.
And so we're getting muddy colors, muddy values in here. And a lot of the images, it's just blurry, fuzzy.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't commit to this tree. You didn't really give us anything to look at here. And it's kind of a shame. I mean, this is half the image. We're looking at it and there's nothing to see here, right? There's not much to see here. And on her, she's all dark and muddy, the whole costume. We're not getting any interesting details there either. So it's like it's fine here, but then I think you're losing people when they open up your images and they see these backgrounds, because it just looks like you didn't want to deal with them.
We're getting a lot of suggestion and airbrush and texture when what we need is resolution.
Development, yeah. And so I think this is where you're losing those clients. They want to see more information on the character. This is just getting way too dark, way too fast. Very simple. This is all very simple, right? And we're kind of seeing that happening across images. Same thing here. Not enough resolution on this background. I also noticed this is a super common thing for everybody that is, you know, working in the industry at a certain level, trying to get to the higher levels, is that you have some really fantastic images that are strong when you only have one character there, or, you know, a kind of a simple story being told. But when the narrative becomes more complex, it kind of starts to fall apart a little bit. And here it's unclear what is going on here. I don't know who this is, what his connection is to these people. Are these one group? He's a bit far. Is he going in the other direction? I can't tell from the pose. Who is this person gesturing to? Because they're not making eye contact with any of these subjects, right? So when the narrative starts to involve more figures and get more complex, you're kind of struggling, I think, a little bit with this. So that's an area that needs to be addressed, and that's a more complex thing. That's not an easy thing to fix. It's not like a value problem or just paint more trees or whatever, you know. That requires a lot more sketching in the initial phase and getting out your dolls, getting out models to position your figures in a way that works well for the action you're trying to describe, right?
Yep. I agree. We will go into Photoshop and look at some things, but those are the major things: the value control, the environment resolution, and really think about it this way. I think we say this in the fantasy class, that you must consider the environment as the other character in the scene. I know you love painting characters, you put everything you got into painting the guy, right? But the environment is the other character, and you need to give them just as much love as you give this character.
Or a little bit more, at least.
Or a little bit more.
Just a little. Maybe not the same amount.
The environment looking good is going to make him look better.
It's true. It's true.
Right?
Yeah. That is one, like, dialing up the environment 25% will make the character look better than just endlessly detailing the character.
Yes. So in our opinion, one of the gold standards is Kate Burmack in the illustration.
We love Kate.
I'm not saying you need to paint like Kate Burmack, but there's a lot of things worth learning, worth observing. I highly recommend that you go look at some of her pieces, because she's working at cover, like she's doing cover books, promo art, like big scene character promo art.
But she also just does cards. Okay, here's another thing to realize is, like, we're showing you Kate Burmack and we're saying you don't need to paint like Kate Burmack. We don't paint like Kate Burmack. But realize this: if you're trying to get into Magic, you're trying to get into D&D, trying to get into Pathfinder, you have to compete with her. Yeah. For pieces. True. You have to compete with us. You have to compete with other people who are on those properties already. So if Kate Burmack, think about this, if Kate Burmack could get away with not painting any of these things, don't you think she would? Like, you know, she didn't have to do this, right? But no, she knows that this image, in order to be accepted for what it's intended for, I think it's a cover, these plants need to be here and these plants need to be there. That tree needs to look good. That tree needs to look good too. That water needs to look tight. Oh, we got a little frog, you know. people who you're competing against, they're not putting in this extra work for no reason, right?
Yeah.
And so the problem too for you, for us, for anyone competing with somebody like Kate is if Kate is willing to put in this, the ADs are going to expect this from all of us, or at least something close, you know? So that's, the benchmark is set by the people who are there. So just be aware of this. And we're not saying you have to do it as detailed as her, but it just needs to be developed a little bit more. We can't get away with just airbrushing everything.
So here's yours, and here's like her version of a scene that also has an image of the ground that's muddy. There's roots, there's plants. We need something closer to this. We need something closer to this. Now this is actually closer to like how close you are to the ground, right? So, you know, can we get something more like this? Because this is visually interesting. I can sit here and I can look at this. I can separate out the plans and the color separation as value control, and there's three-dimensionality of the stuff overlapping and layering over each other.
Look at this beautiful blue shadow over here painted from this leaf, you know? She gives you something to look at everywhere you look, where the eye goes. And the subject is not a pretty subject. But this is what I'm talking about, making lemonade out of the lemons that they give you. They give you this assignment, and you're like, oh man, I got to do something here, you know, to make this look interesting. And this is what it's about. Now, the good news for you is that stuff is not outside your ability to paint.
Yes.
I know you can paint that. If you can paint those characters that you've been painting, you can paint a tree like that. You can paint plants like that. It's just a matter of saying, okay, I'm going to commit to developing these images a little bit more. But it's not like you need to go learn another set of skills to do this.
So this is an image that I did some paint over for, and this is the non-painted version. So I pulled up two images, again from Kate, and this had a similar misty sea sort of vibe to it. So I was looking at that, as well as this one. Similar sort of thing going on with this one. Gray skies, wet, spotlight kind of on the guy. Now you want to notice a few things here, and the way that she's approaching this, which is there is blacks or extreme darks, but they're held for the occlusion shadows. And this allows more of everything to be closer to its base color, where it's going to have more vibrancy. And just the base black almost serve as a line of these little occlusion areas.
Contact shadows.
Yeah, contact shadows. So they're there, and they really help the read, so you know what you're looking at, but they don't compromise by making everything really black. Right? So a lot more stuff is allowed to set closer to its base color. And that's what we are trying to implement here. So let me back this up. Now I'll step through the different layers that you can see. And I'll tell you, I don't know that this is the direction they actually intend for this image. All right, I'm not saying what we end up with is what it's supposed to look like. I don't know what the brief was, so I'm just do something. So we've got these people. I just separated them out on their own layer, and then I literally just grabbed the sky from her picture right there and duplicated it. And, okay, so that's just where we got the sky color. This automatically puts it more into the mid-tone.
We're not saying that you should sample off other people's artwork, by the way. We're just doing that to save time, because I had like 5 minutes to do this.
Okay, and then I just grabbed the ship sail shape and put that on its own layer. Okay, now let's start doing something with this. Here, we're trying to get the color back into them. So this is a common thing we do. We practice this in the character illustration class, which is if there is too much white or too much black that is desaturating our base colors and creating too much contrast, we layer the base color again at about 40-50% in order to get that chroma back. And then we can start looking at trying to deepen only the occlusion. So same sort of thing that Kate would do, just grabbing some occlusion areas and bumping those. Next up, you want to have that back lighting, I assume, since we see that edge lighting here. But what's the problem with the edge lighting right now?
Problem is when you want to edge light on a character, you can't see it if the background, the sky or whatever's back there is the same value as the edge light. You just end up getting this kind of blur, right? Or this soft edge. And so you don't really get it to be as impactful as you want. It's better if you let that edge light be a lighter value noticeably than whatever's back there.
So this is where you work yourself into a corner value-wise where you're going, well, I want this to be brighter so it looks lit, but I can't make it too bright because it'll disappear. Therefore, the only thing I can change is to make that dark. And you just keep getting darker and darker so that you can get the other lights to show up. Where the option 3 is instead you darken this and you let the edge light be there. This doesn't have to be as bright as the light. The light is actually somewhere off screen.
We don't have to be looking directly at the light source, right?
So here now we have value control where the brighter things will show up against the background and the darker things will show up against the background. So that gives us more value range to work with. So we're getting that. Little just exposure to pop them out some more. And some cleanup. This is tied into what we mentioned to the other artists, which is sometimes you want to have form lighting, usually on your main character, right? And then other times we could treat him more like a silhouette. He's a secondary character. So he stands out as being darker than the background, and he stands out as being more well lit and volumetric than the background. So they both stand out, but you're trying different methods in order to visually work with both of them. So you can see the sort of difference that makes. We get a lot more color, we got a lot more action with the lighting.
Get mood.
Yeah, a lot more mood with this. So if you were working with us in our studio, this is a direction that we would encourage you to take the piece, if it was a piece we were working with. And ultimately, I think this is probably the direction that you need to go if you're trying to get into MTG, D&D. They tend to like this direction, I think, more consistently. So, any wrap-up thoughts?
No, I think Cristiana's portfolio is really good, and she's doing great work. She has good skills. I think she totally has the skills to push these up to get to this level. And to develop her backgrounds. It's just a matter of investing more time in the pieces that have those issues to bring them up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, super good portfolio, Cristiana.
Last one we have is Vanessa. We also have an image to look at. I think it's connected to Vanessa's. So, yeah.
Yeah, we got it.
So we have this one and we have the complexity scale.
Right.
We'll pull that up as well. But we'll read this. Vanessa says, your educational videos and pull reviews have been helpful. Well, thank you. I'd love to get a review on my work. I come from an animal drawing background. I've been looking to reposition towards D&D, TTRPGs. Aiming to begin freelancing first with commissions from individual D&D clients. Once you get more skills, bigger portfolios, looking for companies. New to drawing humans and have only recently began to focus on my portfolio. Therefore, I only have a few pieces. I'd love to hear your feedback. Okay. Vanessa. Yeah, we have just 3 pieces here, which makes sense if you're just switching over subjects to do humans.
I would kind of like to see what your animals looked like if you had animal drawing, because you said you come from your background is in drawing animals, and there's no animals here, and it just makes me wonder what were your animals like, because that might be something, if you're doing your animals to a higher level, that might be something you want to lean into. But since we can't see those, we're just going to look at what's here.
Okay, so as always, starting at the wider view, accessible, good, not a problem. We then move to foundational errors that are visible from a thumbnail. We are hitting an issue here. I am seeing anatomical issues even at this scale, particularly over here with the anatomy and the pose of this character. Feels like there's some odd twisting and proportions going on there. And then when we get to the shading and rendering, we're getting some missteps on that as well, where things are not having the right volume that you would expect them to have and what I think you're aiming for on the subject. So this is a scenario where we really going to recommend, don't worry about a portfolio right now. You're starting a subject of drawing and painting characters, which is a very complex subject that takes significant study to excel at. Don't worry about trying to build a portfolio right now. Just focus on the skills. You need to do lots and lots of characters, lots and lots of anatomy studies to do this really well. So don't add the pressure of it's got to come out great and it's got to be a dynamic image and I've got to make a portfolio piece out of it.
I want to say, when you described in your post, if your goal is to get D&D character commissions, I think this is too much complexity for that. What we need to see is, just open up Kate's again, just give me a standalone character. What we need to see for that type of work is something like this. It's just the character standing there on a white background or transparent background, wearing whatever costume they need to be wearing and rendered well with, accurate proportions for that character, with the characteristics that they need to have. Okay, so what you were mentioning is that you're trying to get clients to hire you to do this. This is what you need to put in your portfolio. And this is hard enough as it is to do well.
Yes.
So going back to the portfolio, I think you're asking too much of yourself, especially for someone who just started drawing humans. You're not going to jump from that to splash art. That's
kind of what this is aiming.
It's a hard ask of yourself, and I think it's just too far from where you are right now. So let's talk about kind of the scale of complexity. We can talk a little bit about that. Show you some examples. Walk us through that.
So I put this together to example what complexity scale is. On the left side, you have simpler subjects because they are less complex subjects. That would be like just a still life, just a portrait, half body, but just lines, right? We're lowering the complexity of the thing. Therefore, it is less difficult. The more things that you do, items such as props, or the more high quality you're trying to do that thing, such as a more refined portrait, the more complex it becomes, and therefore the more difficult it becomes. What you need to understand is that you are never going to improve the quality of your piece by scaling up the difficulty of the piece, which is to say, if you scale up the complexity of the piece, the quality is not going to go up. It's always inverse. You scale up the complexity, you're scaling up the difficulty of the task, and therefore the quality goes down. So you only want to scale up the complexity / difficulty as you can with quality. So you can only reasonably move from one stage to the next stage. And you can't jump, otherwise the quality will never follow you. So if you're here and you're doing this work and you're consistently doing this and you're not making big errors, like your portraits have the features in the right places and everything, then you can move up to here. And then if you're here, you can move up to here. But you can't just go to here. And why? Because each thing is a part of the previous thing. You have to be able to do portraits well to do better portraits well. You have to be able to do good portraits well because good portraits are literally a part of figure pieces. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to do standalone figures well because they're literally a part of single characters with scenes. And you have to be able to do them well because maybe you do a single character scene, but it has lots more things in it.
Yeah, painting those saprolings just about killed me.
And then you scale up to multi-figures. Now these are about even because this has more characters but no background, and this one has more background complexity but one character. So that's about even there. And then you have multiple characters but a lot of things to balance. Mm-hmm. Or here, 2 characters and a lot of things to balance. Those are ours. This gets into other stuff that's not ours, but we'll take a look at it. And then this is like the high end of high complexity, multiple characters in action with dynamic lighting, with lighting effects, right? Like, look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There's like 14 characters on here. Everybody's got a different light source with them. Action poses for everybody. There is 1,000 ways to do this wrong for every one way to do it right.
Probably more.
Okay. Same thing down here. Like, this is a new piece from who was it? Polarium. So again, dynamic poses, great value control, dynamic composition, character designs.
There's probably
updated,
3D involved in here too.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But
regardless,
great.
Yeah.
So this is what we're saying. Right now, what you're doing is you're picking things that are kind of
like that
up in here with this splash art sort of feel to it, where right now your skills are further down. And if you try to jump up very far, you're really not going to gain any experience. It's like if you're playing a video game and you just get out of the tutorial zone and you immediately go to the end game high level zone, you're going to get smashed. And you're really not even going to gain any XP because it's so above you.
They'll just end you right away.
Yeah.
I've tried those things before. It never works. So you have to go back and do all the other quests or the other tasks to level up so that you can get to that door or that level or that boss or whatever.
I had I think it was a PlayStation 2. I don't remember which Final Fantasy it was.
We haven't played games in a while. Can you tell?
Oh, it was like 10 years ago. I think I had like Final Fantasy 12. I can't remember. Whichever one it was with Vaughn. And I got out of the tutorial area. I'd only been playing for a couple of hours. I remember I ran out in the desert and there was a T-Rex that was like roaming in the desert. I was like, oh, I've been smashing up those other things. And I ran over to it and I hit it. And it hit me one time with its tail. And I lost like 80% of my health. And I was like, oh, out of here, out of here. Now, I could have been obstinate and tried to kite that thing around for 3 hours, doing my little plunky hits on it. Maybe I might have taken down one T-Rex in the whole afternoon. But it honestly would have just been faster, and it was, to just go through the proper levels, step up my skills, and then come back to it, and I could thrash it later without any problem. And it's slower to try to grind away on something far above you than it is to just level up naturally so that when you are ready to do it, you're actually ahead of where you would have been.
Yeah, you can actually do. And we don't say this to like discourage anybody from trying to do these big images. It's just that we have seen this happen so many times over the years, where people just keep circling around these areas they're not skilled for, and they just keep circling around here for years and they never get in. And it's because they don't want to go back and do these things well and then practice these things and kind of build it up. They just want a shortcut to here, and there really just isn't one. I don't think it exists.
Now, we talk about this in the career kit, and that is if you divide all the skills into two groups, it's either a component skill or it's a batch skill. Okay? A component skill is your ability to do an individual sort of isolated thing. Let's say like drawing portraits is a component skill. Being able to paint a portrait is another component skill. Understanding foundational perspective is a component skill. Right? These are all component skills. Once you get over to design, I'd say kind of right along here, this is where you start having batch skills, where you get all those individual component skills and you've got to put them together. So now we've got to do design and anatomy and posing and shading and color theory, and you've got to have these things all together. And if you can then get all of those individual skills and put them together consistently, then you're good. Move on. And then if you can then add in composition, scene lighting, environment design, good. Check it off. Move on. Now can you do it with more people? Now can you do multiple figures and do it and balancing all these things again multiple times in the same scene? Okay, and you move on. And that's what we're saying is you got to work on that. If the problem, so this is what we're coming back to, component skills or batch skills. If the problem is the process, that's saying I just need to do scenes more because my problem is composing scenes. Composing scenes isn't the problem. It's the individual components of the scene that are the weak points at this point. So you don't get better at the component skills by practicing the batch skill over and over.
We've said this before, and so some of you have already heard this, but just to quickly repeat the point. If you are having anatomy problems, you're having problems drawing your people correctly with correct proportions or rendering them or doing the portraits, whatever aspect of the character, you're not going to get better at those things by doing scenes over and over. Because you'll spend 4 weeks or whatever on a scene and you'll have one character, right? One portrait, one body. But if you spend those 4 weeks just doing portraits and characters, like which one of those is going to make you better at portraits or characters? So it's when you have an issue in a skill, in a component skill, it makes a lot more sense to just practice that skill until you overcome some of those problems and then go back to doing, okay, now I'm going to try to make another illustration again. Now that my characters are better, I'm not making proportion mistakes, I'm rendering better, my portraits are looking good, I'm going to try it again. And that's how you progressively level up. Another thing to mention, this is, again, we're saying all this stuff and we're not targeting this at Vanessa specifically. This is now a general conversation. But one of the things that helps you get from the lower levels progressively through each stage is being critical with your mistakes. And one of the mistakes that people make is kind of this wishful thinking mistake where they hope that the audience or the recruiter, the art director is not very critical. And they hope they're less critical than they are.
Yes.
But the truth is the opposite. They are going to be more critical than you. So you need to be mindful of, if I see a mistake, if you see a mistake on your piece, like I see mistakes on my pieces now, I'm looking right at them, I should have fixed them, but I didn't see them at the time. But when you're doing a piece, any mistakes that you do see, you need to address those. What happens is people sometimes, they do see the mistakes in the proportions, they do see the mistakes in the rendering or parts that are not so good, and they just ignore it and they say, well, no one's going to look at that. They won't notice. And it's like, no, if you notice it, they're going to notice for sure. And if you want to boost the quality, you have to address those things and fix them. And we were looking at splash art process videos on YouTube. You can go watch them or on ArtStation
like
sometimes.
Bo-Chen has a lot.
Yeah, you can see these people doing these splash art pieces in time lapse, and you can see them being very critical. Are the hands looking good? No, I'm going to paint it over again. That hand's still not looking good. I'm going to paint it again. They'll paint that hand 5, 6, 7, 10 times until they feel like the problems are corrected. They'll do that face. They'll touch it up and touch it up. They'll redo the nose. They'll redo the eyes until they don't see any errors that they can see, you know, and that it's reached the maximum quality that they can hit in the time that they have. So that's kind of what we do. We do this at every stage when we're working on pieces. It's like, okay, I'm going to try to make sure there are no mistakes on proportions and this and that and perspective. Same thing here. Same thing with my colors, with your colors, all these pieces that we did. In the time we have allotted, make sure there's no mistakes or as few as possible. Yeah, Ron Gia starting the entire piece. Yeah. If it's a personal piece, you can do that, you know, you can just start the whole thing over and be like, this is all crap, I'm just going to throw it out. But if you're on a client piece, you don't have that ability, you don't have the time. So it's just like, do I see any mistakes, anything? And addressing that is part of leveling up, if that makes sense.
And the level of criticalness only goes higher and higher the higher you go in art skill, all right, and in the industry. So the people that are near the top, say like whoever these splash art, you know, piece is, highly critical about every aspect.
They'll correct things that we are looking at them, we don't even see the problem.
They start repainting it, and I can't even identify what was wrong with it to begin with.
And it might not even be that it was wrong. They just didn't like it the way it was, and they thought they could improve it 2-3%, and they're gonna go do that.
The other thing that you see is, and I think this is more common, that people, including me, I'll put myself in there, this is true, feel like I can get away with not referencing that. I bet I don't need to, I bet I can just make that up.
It'll just be good enough, you know?
Yeah, it'll be good enough. And it's not.
Probably not.
No. So it's fine to do some of your rough sketches with what minimal to no references. You're just getting the idea down. That's fine. You're getting the idea on the board. You don't want to slow down too much. Get in the art flow. Cool. But then, if you ever think, well, I don't want to take the time to have to go reference that. Take the time to go reference it.
Because, you know why? Because these people are going to take the time to go reference it.
You think they're not checking this stuff up? You think they're not using 3D models and maquettes and photo shoots?
Oh, yeah. I've seen these people doing whole photo shoots or building the whole scene in 3D because they don't want to get the perspective wrong or the angles wrong. Okay, so going back to Vanessa, for you, since you said, you know, a goal was to do D&D characters for clients, I would just...
Oh, I thought you wanted
I want to go back to the artwork.
Okay.
I want you to focus around here. This is where you should be focused. Don't try to jump over to splash art and, you know, extreme angles and foreshortening. When you're just starting to learn to draw people, just draw them straight, you know, at an eye level pose, you know, in a simple, you know, character pose with the human proportions. You know, these are a little bit of exaggerated, slightly proportions, you know, elongated, but they're close, right? Or like this guy, you know, basic human proportions. And just try to get the anatomy correct, the designs, you know, the clothing, the materials looking correct at this stage before you try to jump. Anything else, you're just going to be adding more of a burden on yourself and more work that's not necessary for what you're trying to achieve right now. Once you get really comfortable doing these and you can do these with no problems, then okay, now get the background in there. Maybe try putting another character in and see what you can do and work on those skills. That would be my advice.
Yeah, I think that's valid. Don't scale up the complexity if you don't have to. So just focus on the subject of the people for now. That's valid. I like the idea. Leave backgrounds, environments, composition for later. And
reference your poses. Reference your character. Don't make them up if you're just starting to learn people.
If you guys don't know of Will Weston is an art teacher. He's, I think, best known for his anatomy.
I just want to look at Vanessa's work again.
His anatomy classes, as well as his shacks. He has like Mad Shacks class. Anyway, we were watching one of his classes one time.
We bought a bunch of his stuff.
And he was talking about drawing poses. And remember him writing on the board, never, ever, ever, ever make up the pose. It's like, hey.
If he says it.
If he says it, and he's better at it than me for sure.
Yeah. I agree with that, especially if you're learning. You should have some 3D dolls or photo reference, some kind of reference for the pose that you need. Making it up it's gonna really compromise your end result, what you're trying to achieve.
Even if you could get it right or get close, the problem is if you're trying to improve, you don't have a point of reference to judge against to see whether you're accurate or not. So you need that reference, whether it's a 3D model, whether it's a webcam photo, you take a picture of your friend or whatever it is.
Or your mom.
You need something to go against so that you can see, you know what, I guessed that right there, or I guessed that wrong. And maybe you sketch it out first without a reference just to see how well you can do. But you need to check it against something to see where you're right or where you're off.
Okay, I think we got one more portfolio.
No, Vanessa was the last one.
Was it?
Yeah, we just had 5 today because I knew we were going to chat about
I don't know why I thought there was another. Oh, because I saw that other folder.
Yeah, it just has cover image.
Okay, well, does anyone have any questions in the chat that they want to ask
that was
of
Abraham.
us?
Hey, Abraham.
Abraham's here.
Yeah, we'll take some chat questions. I will just clarify, because I think we have some new people in here. If you want to submit your portfolio, it is completely free. And go to swatchesdiscord.com. It will just link you over to the correct Discord. After you go through the intro, which I think you just have to say hi in the general chat, then you're looking for the video critique submissions down here. And
just make a post in here.
Yeah, just make a post in here.
And put the date on it, if you don't mind, to help us sort it out, because it doesn't sort it out properly.
Try to do what most of these people have done, which is give us some idea of what the goal is, or if there is a particular issue that you feel like needs addressed. Like, I feel like my anatomy's off, I don't know what to do, or I don't know what to study next, this is what I've been doing. Give us some kind of direction as to how we can best help you, and that would help us be able to do that.
It helps us a lot to know what your specific goals are and what you're struggling with or what you want to achieve. Yeah.
Just taking a glance at this, I think we caught up with a lot of these. We only seem to have 2 or 3 here that we haven't gone over. So we try to do this weekly as schedule allows on Thursdays at the same time. If we have enough next week, we'll probably do another live stream next Thursday. But if there's only 2 or 3, we will wait until we have more.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So there's a question in the chat. I'm just going to take a look at it here. How often do you fight for something in your work a director wants removed? Do you just change it or politely try to explain why you've done something you really believe in? I don't fight for anything because I don't care that much. It's their piece. If they want something changed, I don't have a belief about it necessarily. There are times when they ask us to change things that we know are probably going to make the piece look worse than what we would have chosen. But at the end of the day, it's their piece. They're paying for it. And it's not... the goal is not for us to make a piece that we love. It's to make a piece the client loves. And so that's the goal.
So I'll add 2 or 3 things to that.
Sure.
Which is, a lot of times they are just serving as the property guardians. Mm-hmm. So changes must be requested that keep things in line with the lore and the IP of the property. Even though visually they may not be the best choice, it's like that person has to wear that color. Even though that color is awful in that scene, that's the color they wear.
Yeah.
So you got to do those things. It is fine to pitch them another option. Say, hey, I really think that if we can make this in the evening instead of a morning scene, or if I can make it raining, I could really get a lot of action off the splashes. Whatever your idea is, pitch it to them. Mm-hmm. If they don't like it, shut up.
Just move on.
You just move on. Save the idea. Maybe you can use it on something later.
Yeah, it kind of, honestly, it kind of evens out. Sometimes you pitch them stuff and they really like your solution and you're like, great, I get to do the thing that I liked. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they don't, and they pick like the ugliest sketch that you gave them. And they like that one the best. And it just, happens both ways, and it's part of the job. People who fight with their art directors, to me, like people who don't want to make changes on client work, that's just a problem. They just make things more difficult. Yeah. And the bottom line is, if you don't want to make a change on a client's piece that they want made, you're putting them in the position where they have to take it away from you, and someone else has to do the work and basically, make up for what you didn't want to do. Like someone else has to cover for you. And I don't think that's a position most artists want to be in.
No, and I tell you what, pitching them options that fulfill their vision in a better way is something that's fine to do. Sometimes they'll say, I never considered that. That's great. Let's do it. So it's fine to do. But if you get in the habit of pushing back on them, that's really thin ice, and it's very competitive, and they don't want to have to fight with people for pieces to get done. So it's a good way to kind of see yourself out the door.
It's a polite way of saying it.
Yeah.
So, if I add more pieces to my portfolio, can I make a new post for review? Yeah, sure. Just make a few more. Like if it's just 2, maybe not. But we usually say like 6 or more. Mm-hmm. If you have 6 new pieces, then that's like a fair chunk of images to look at.
And it really ought to be probably at least 6 months worth of work. Don't just do like 6 sketches.
This is so that there's actually like a change in your skills and like visible growth. Yeah.
Yep. I'll for sure submit my portfolio. Sure. Yeah. I've heard some will fight, just enter to hear from YouTube things. I'm sure some people will. We intentionally do not hire any artists that give us a hard time because we
got enough problems.
Yeah. have enough
I need
things
to be
deal
arguing with somebody about an edit on an image that, you know.
Okay, any other questions? We'll wrap it up here pretty quick, but if there's some questions, I'll take another one or two.
Yeah, just let us know. There's a bit of a delay, so it's going to be
Yeah.
a couple of minutes before you hear what we're saying right now and we read your response to that. That was fun, though, wasn't it?
Okay, yeah, we'll probably have another newsletter in about a week then, and we'll catch everybody up on that. Oh, I will mention, marketing guy would probably want me to tell you, the form rendering bundle, which is volumetric drawing and volumetric painting combo, is called the Foundation Bundle, and it is currently on sale as part of the form drawing launch, and the price is going to go up $30 on Monday. So if you want to pick up that bundle and still save the money on that, you need to make sure you do that by Monday.
How long have you guys been reviewing portfolios? Oh my gosh. A long time.
Oh gosh. Okay, so this is episode 20 of this iteration of the series. But before we met, I think I did over 100. Yeah, I think I have over 100
What, videos or portfolios?
portfolio reviews, live streams.
Okay, that's a lot. Yeah, I did look at hundreds of portfolios at my previous job before we started our own school 3 years ago. So yeah, I'd say probably about 6 years total, maybe more. I'm not sure for me, and then for you, maybe 10 years.
Well, I started reviewing portfolios when I started the stream, and a couple of years after I started doing professional work. So that was about probably about 2012. So it's been about 12, 13 years.
There you go.
Of consistently, we've both reviewed thousands.
At this stage, yeah, we reviewed about 800 just from our studio this year, studio applications so far. I think it's been about 800. So that was just this year, and not counting the other ones on Discord. And then previous to that, we had hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands. I don't know.
Matthew, yeah, I'll clarify this for some people. So there are some of the courses that you will find listed on the website or in your account courses that you own, listed as being legacy, parentheses legacy. That's not because there's a new version coming out. This is literally just I'm having to make some updates and changes on the back end of the website. And temporarily, there are 2 versions of everything. So I've had to rename.
The older one is named but they're the same.
They're exactly the same.
It's
Nothing's
just
changing.
the web page. So there's nothing to worry about. Just access it as normal. It's fine.
There is also some people that have purchased some of the legacy classes or had feedback classes that you currently cannot access right now. I'm aware of this. I know what the issue is. Within the next week, I am migrating data around on the back end, so just hang tight.
It will get fixed.
We'll get it clarified.
And we're sorry for the
but
inconvenience.
There is no web guy. We do everything. So I'm just trying to take some time off from doing recording and video editing to do website maintenance right now. So, but yes, material rendering 2, there is a request for that, and I want to start on that next year, beginning of next year. So it'll probably be at least middle of next year before there's a chance for that to come out.
Yeah,
But
you're gonna need to draw and paint a lot of things.
yeah, a lot of studies, a lot of examples to make up for that. But I think that's probably a good place to wrap it up for the stream today. We really appreciate everyone, especially for hanging out live with us, but anybody else that watches the stream. If anything stood out to you as being kind of an aha moment, something that you're really going to remember, or something that you're going to implement, leave a comment and let us know. And we'll be sure to try to make sure other people get that information.
Yeah.
So,
and like and subscribe. I've seen other people
Yeah.
say this on YouTube, so I'm just copying the other channels. I'm not a YouTuber, but it helps. Always helps the algorithm if you do that, I guess.
okay. There was another question. Do we want to kind of wrap up?
Okay, one more question. Sorry if this is off topic. If applying for positions, concept, narration, design, if we don't have the network, what may be more important to show in one's application? The portfolio is the most important thing.
By
Always the portfolio. Just remember that you're competing with other people, loads of other people that they also don't know, and they're just looking at the artwork first and foremost. So that's the best advice.
We're encouraging, no matter what you're trying to do, illustration, characters, environments, concept art, whatever it is, UI, I don't care. Do some homework. If you're going to buy a car, you do some research on the car, you see how it runs, you see all that. Do the same sort of thing. Do a little legwork for the potential sector you're looking to get into. One of the things you definitely want to do is look at other people who have got hired and have jobs doing the thing you want to do, and look at the work that they had in their portfolio before they started getting that paid work from the company. So you could look at somebody that's like, oh, they started working with Magic the Gathering. Don't look at their Magic Gathering work. Look at what work they had just before Magic the Gathering, because that's obviously what they submitted to get in. And that's your benchmark. You need to at least match that. And look at what subjects they're doing, the quality that it's at, if it's concept design, like how many pages, what was the layout. Find at least 3 people that match that and let them serve as your benchmarks, because in a very real way, those are your competitors and you are going to be compared against them. That's the best thing that you can do.
All right. I hope that answered your question. So let's wrap it up here then. Thanks again, guys. And I guess we'll see you on the Discord or on the next stream.
All right. Take care, everybody.